We good?
Yeah. There you go.
We're live?
Pretty sure we are.
Beautiful. And our sound looks live too. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We got to get to it. Welcome everybody to Doing Better News. This is our first ever episode of our new Doing Better News. We've sort of refigured and we're really trying to target our local audience. So I am here. My name is Oliver Ox, joined by Beth, my Doing Better News co-host.
Hello.
And today we're going to get into some local stories. We're going to talk about some stories that we think are important to the area, and then get into some positive stuff about some events going on and some ways to get involved. One of our big focuses today is there's an upcoming election in Lawrence, and that's the city that we're currently located in. So first, let me quickly show you what I mean by local. If you're not from around here, Des, you want to give my screen, please? So this is America. There's America. There we go. And if you zoom in, we're going to be focused on New England news. So this is New England, and most specifically, we're located right here in Lawrence, Mass, which is in the Merrimack Valley, right on the border with New Hampshire. Des, you can bring me back. So our focus is really going to be primarily on things. I'm spent many years living in Haverhill. Beth is from Lawrence, so we're going to sort of focus on.
I'm from Haverhill.
Oh, Haverhill. I thought you currently lived in Lawrence. No?
No.
Oh, there you go. So Beth, also from Haverhill. Danny from Lawrence are the host.
There's just better food here.
There is better food here.
And better music.
That's certainly true. Yes. So we're going to get into some. We're going to sort of focus on our local Merrimack Valley stomping grounds, and then a little bit on what's going on in New Hampshire, because I'm currently a Southern New Hampshire guy. So anyway, that's what you can expect on Doing Better News. If you have things you'd like to contribute in any way, shape, or form, whether that's feedback, criticism on what we're saying, you want to correct us on something we got wrong, or ideally, tell us about some things that are going on that you'd like us to draw attention to. I would love to get that from you. So doingbettershow@gmail.com. You can always find us. You can throw stuff in the comments. We'll always take any feedback you got. Let's get into it. So here's my plan, because we do have to do some sad, not positive stuff. So we're going to start down and we're going to work our way up so that we end on a positive note. So we have a absolutely horrific piece of local news, unfortunately. For those of you that don't know, Lawrence is a home to, I believe it's the third largest Dominican community in the world, right after DR, Washington Heights, and then I believe it's Lawrence. Lots of wonderful Dominican people here. And unfortunately, there was a tragedy that hit home for many, many people this week, which was a nightclub that collapsed. Killed like 100 people. It's just one of those. The first thing it reminded me of is this is going to be dating myself quite a bit. I think it was 2003. There was a fire in Rhode Island at a rock concert, and 100 people died in a club in Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. That one was absolutely a case of people not. It was neglect. The owners.
Yeah, they had blocked the exits because they didn't want people going out to smoke. So when they got to the exits were actually locked, and so they couldn't escape. And then it caused a stampede, and so the people who were near the exits were actually crushed to death.
Yeah, and the band itself used pyrotechnics, even though nobody had done the proper things you're supposed to do pyrotechnics safely, et cetera, et cetera. So. Yeah. We don't know yet what's going to come out about the origins of this disaster. Either way, it's nothing's going to bring back the people that were lost and make it better for the people that were injured. So it's just it's a horrible thing, and my heart goes out to everyone who's affected by this. So let's move on to something slightly more that we can focus on a little bit more. So
we did lose some people from downtown Lawrence in that.
Yeah.
So
no, it's
again,
a lot.
Again,
of people.
there is a lot. It really did hit home here.
There's a lot of hurt close to home. I believe there were 2 Major League Baseball players who were former Major League Baseball players. There was somebody who
was an owner of one of the restaurants on Essex Street.
Yeah, really major.
Terra Luna.
Yeah, really major waves through. Yeah, so no, it's absolutely terrible. If anyone knows of anything we can do to support victims of this, please reach out, because it's something I haven't seen much about yet, and I would love to. It's really hard with all of any disaster, because there's lots of people who need help and are trying to raise money in all the right ways and do all the good things, and there's always a couple of vultures. There's big vultures, there's larger organizations that spend lots and lots of their money on administrative costs and don't actually get the money to the people. And then there's other fly-by-night grifters with TikTok channels and whatever, being like, oh, I'll give money to people who need it, and then stuff it in their pockets. So, if anyone has any good resources they can share that we can do, something that we can do to help out, I'd really appreciate that. Want to talk about a couple of, there's been some big changes at the federal government funding level. Some of the cuts that look like they're going through from DOGE, although it looks like what were originally about $1 trillion worth of cuts that DOGE was bragging about is probably closer to 150 billion. And in the grand scheme of things, of course, 150 billion is a lot of money. But when you're talking about a government that spends trillions and trillions every year, and we got a couple of numbers that we'll talk about later if you want to get into on our Sunday sanity check, we're going to talk about some of the numbers involved in our military. All that said, there are these things are going to hit home a little bit in mass. Des, if you give my screen, please. There's going to be some cuts to mass health. A lot of the mass health funding comes from the federal government. $15 billion comes into from the federal government towards mass health. So that's going to be affected. Now, because of the nature of this administration and their less than clear and methodical way of doing things, we don't know exactly what the ramifications are going to be, but there's going to be some. Here's another example of how these cuts are going to affect. The Lawrence Public Schools are going to lose $1.3 million in federal aid, as there's been $2 billion of cuts. Another way that this is going to come out. Now, $1.3 million sounds like a lot of money, but I bet I can find 7 or 8 useless administrators in Lawrence and get rid of them and take care of that pretty quickly. But unfortunately, I'm certain those are not the people who are going to lose the jobs in response to $1.3 million of cuts nationwide. So my take on this is I think the U.S. federal government is probably the least efficient organization, maybe in the history of the world. It's really not they're really not efficient spending money. But these are important things that we're talking about here. Education of kids in Lawrence is an incredibly important thing. Mass health, incredibly important. So if the federal government is going to be stepping down what they're doing, the rest of us, whether that's state, whether it's local, whether it's community, are going to have to up, or we're going to see a loss of quality of life for our citizens.
And I mean, that was the point of a federal program. The federal program is to provide the bare minimum so that everyone has a shot. Because unfortunately, when it's kept at the local level, when it's kept at the state level, it can be certain groups getting to benefit while others suffer. And having the federal level gives a bar. And that's not the best system, but it was what we could do to keep going. And so, the system is going to have some pushback, some waves, some ripples, and how that's going to fall and how we're going to have to step up.
Yeah, and I think it would be great, Des, if we could if these were, if all these cuts were just efficiency, right? Oh, we're just cutting wasteful stuff. But that's not going to be how it's going to come out. It's just not. And I think there is probably $1 trillion worth of waste in the federal government budget, but it ain't coming from, you're not getting it out of Mass Health, and you're certainly not getting out of Lawrence High School. So, and as someone who worked at Lawrence High School and saw federal money being misspent and mishandled, I see the desire to get the federal government out of education, out of local issues. But if we're going to do that, we can't just go, just get it out and everything will be better. There needs to be we're going to have to deal with it ourselves. And I think that I personally, I'm of the opinion that would be a better outcome. I think people in Massachusetts are better providing the things that people in Massachusetts need, and people in Lawrence are better providing the things that people in Lawrence need than the federal government. But cutting and not doing anything to fill in the gaps is the bottom line. Is the way it's set up now is going to hurt working people. And I don't see any major cuts that are going to hurt any billionaires.
Yeah, and there are programs in the Merrimack Valley for getting books to children, getting art supplies to children. They're there. I'm going to start looking at highlighting those, and that's going to be part of my job on this show, is highlighting local charities and nonprofits that are working to help the local community.
Yeah, we are going to have to do more, and it's exactly that stuff. You can't sit home on our phones on TikTok and get mad about things not getting better. It's just not going to work that way. That's been the way we've been trying to do this passive democracy thing. I'll show up once every 4 years, vote, and then yell about it for the other 4 years is not how we're going to make the society better. It's just not, because
We made a lot of money, though. We made a lot of money on that.
yeah.
That is an entire industry. It may be our gross national product right now.
Yeah, bullshit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely bullshit. Just what kind of bullshit?
Yeah,
Variety.
Right. Yeah. All right, so this is one I came across. I've done a little bit of research on this. I would love to hear what you guys can find. I found a little more information on it, but I thought this was a really interesting little TikTok, as it turns out. Des, you want to give me this?
General Electric didn't just dump poison, they gave it away for free to their employees and told them it was clean. For decades, they made transformers and used a substance called PCBs in their oil. They used something called Fuller's Earth, a clay-like substance, to absorb it anytime they needed to clean up a spill. And once it was saturated with the chemicals known to cause cancer and immune disruption, it should have been treated as hazardous waste. But instead, it was given away to employees and neighbors for free for their gardens. So on top of dumping it straight into the river, they knowingly polluted entire neighborhoods. Cleanup is ongoing, and there is currently no screenings or testings for any residents. They currently have the highest rate of bladder cancer in the state, and asthma rates at twice the state average. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health admitted that they did not know that doctors were unaware, and in November said that they were working on outreach. As of March 2025, there is still no new information to our doctors.
So, and it's a super fun site. This article talks a little bit about the fact that it's a super fun site and and the plan of cleaning it up. But as we're talking about bringing back manufacturing to America, we need to make sure that we're doing it in a way that we're not, poisoning everybody. And I think one of the things that I think has happened with the globalization of trade is we've exported a lot of this. We've exported pollution. A lot of the environmental movement is effectively exporting pollution, right? When you drive an electric car, you make your community cleaner, but not the community that made the battery.
Solar panels have a huge
Bingo.
Waste profile that another country has to deal with so that we can have them on our roofs. We can have them for our little fairy lights in our gardens that look really cute.
Yep.
But there is a cost to everything. Everything has a cost. And I work in the regulatory environment. And so the thing is that what they always pull is, as long as we can get rid of the regulatory people, if we can get rid of these pesky regulations, we can bring the manufacturing back. And that is very, very dangerous. Having common sense regulations so that you can do a job well, have a job of high quality, and not cause impact to your community is very, very important. And then the other part that pushed everything off to other parts of the world is the not in my backyard.
Yes, NIMBY environmentalism.
Which is, I do not mind that there's manufacturing in America. I just don't want to see a smokestack.
Right. And then I think that's a great point. And I think regulations are, again, one of these things that is a far more complicated issue than good or bad, right? Like, I'm a Republican, regulations bad. I'm a Democrat, regulations are good. No, there's some regulations. The regulatory capture is something that we have at our federal government level, which means a lot of the regulations are written by the industries, the corporations from the industries are trying to regulate. Those are bad regulations, right? They hurt small businesses. They disadvantage and they advantage big businesses. But regulations that provide for environmental safety and human safety, I think these are basics. And if I were president of the world or president of America and I wanted to put in some tariffs, that's what I would base my tariffs on. I don't want to be importing things from countries that dump all the shit in the river and dump all the shit in the air and make 12-year-olds work 14-hour days. Like, those would be great reasons to put tariffs in to help our people compete against that, not because somebody feels like it that day or wants to bully other countries. But that's for a different show.
Let's tariff the penguins.
So here's a story that hits close to home for me and many people I love, and I think is relevant to many people around here. If you or someone you know uses artificial hair for braids, which is probably somebody you know, if you're around this area, it's almost certainly true. This is one that So let's take a peek at this another little TikTok based on. Why do I keep having my volume off? I'm sorry. This is another one based on a Consumer Reports report. Consumer Reports report. There we go. All right, let's try again, and let me get the volume off.
But I think this is being done on purpose. The attack on the crown. Breaking news. A Consumer's Report has revealed some alarming findings about synthetic braiding hair. According to their analysis, cancer-causing chemicals was found in 100% of 10 synthetic popular brands on the market being tested. This includes brands like Sensational, that's one of the top selling brands out there. 100, I repeat, 100 samples contain cancer-causing chemicals. 9 out of the 10 samples contain lead. Is there a lawyer in the house? This sounds like a class action lawsuit.
So that one I thought was really telling. It also smacks of the Johnson & Johnson baby powder thing from years ago when they knew that there was lead in the lead. It was
lead?
No, was it lead or no? It was asbestos.
asbestos.
You're right. It was asbestos. See, that's why you're here to
It's
correct
asbestos
me.
in in the talcum powder, and the
yes.
talcum powder was used in the baby powder, which caused the whole movement for cornstarch. Which talcum powder is perfectly safe as long as it's not asbestos-laced talcum powder. And cornstarch works just as well. So if you really want to do cornstarch, do cornstarch. Another thing that people are now using as parents is coconut oil to put on their kids' butt because they don't even trust the cornstarch anymore because corn is evil, GMO.
My kids got lots of coconut oil, but the hair thing, this is no joke because this is something that is on your body 24/7. It's something you're putting other chemicals on and rubbing it into your skin and whatever. This is a major, major, major story, and there's a couple things that come to mind. One, again, where are the regulators on this? Is everyone asleep at the wheel? And two, this seems like a great opportunity for someone, for a business, to create a safe alternative for this.
And I don't think there would be regulation for this because there is, we do have for cosmetics, so topical creams and ointments and stuff like that. We do have regulatory requirements for that. They're not as good as I think they should be.
Sure.
But
there's none for this?
No, because this isn't really something you're putting on your skin. This is something you're wearing on top of your head like an accessory.
Yeah, but it's right on the line,
It's right on the line. It's right on that line. But
Wow.
when we're a government, we go on the line of liberty versus the line of. So when we get on that line, we'll go okay until someone gets sick, and now.
Well, the thing that stinks, and what I would love is to see more. More suing, quite frankly. I'd love to sue these companies, see these companies get sued into the ground. The problem is the science is tricky, right? Like it's hard to isolate, this is the thing in your life that gave you the cancer, et cetera, et cetera.
Because life gives you cancer.
Well, right, because there's a bajillion things, right? We've been making synthetic chemicals for 100 years and dumping them all kinds of places, and we don't know how, most of them we don't even know how that one chemical affects you, and we certainly don't know how when it interacts with 7 other chemicals that happen to be there too.
And then the biggest find that they found was cancer being caused by viruses. So I mean, how can you stop that except with vaccinations where you pump yourself full of chemicals? And then the other thing is, it has to be what you eat, but so.
Yeah.
Life is going to give you cancer, and it's just when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen when you're 12, or is it going to happen when you're 90?
Yes,
and we want it to happen when you're 90.
Yes, and I think there's something to. I know I've seen lots of different takes on the virus thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people make very.
It saved my life. I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't gotten that vaccine back in the early 2000s.
The HPV.
Yeah.
But prior to the COVID vaccine, there were more reactions on VAERS from the HPV vaccine than I know. I personally know people who've been injured by the HPV vaccine.
Oh yeah, and funny thing was my reaction to the HPV vaccine was the exact same reaction I had to my COVID vaccine.
Really?
exact same reaction. It was actually kind of funny because they're completely different mechanisms, so I don't know why.
Interesting.
But if it hadn't, it was two evils. It's like this was an experimental one. I got it right as it became cleared for regular people. I was
Yeah.
one of the first people. Back in 2007.
Okay.
And but I got sick, and it took me from 2008 through, well, actually 2009. So from 2009 to almost the end of 2010, and I kept going to doctors going, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
There is something
After the
wrong.
shot?
And it wasn't the shot. I had been exposed. And I wasn't showing any of the right symptoms, so I just got passed along. And then at 26, I got my first biopsy because they're like, I think you've had a topical exposure to this. And they cut in, and yep. And then the next 24 hours, I got 105 temperature because the vaccine was activated, and it burnt out the growth that would have turned cancerous.
I didn't know that was a mechanism that worked by. I'd have
Yeah.
to do some research on that. I only know the other end. I know people who've been hurt by that shot.
Yeah,
so
and
I don't-
every
yeah.
vaccine is going to have adverse effects. Every medical treatment is going to have adverse effects.
Yeah.
And that's terrible. And what the ethics is the greater good. And the greater good is not very good for a libertine type of society. It's more of a very nanny state.
Well, yeah, it's
And
more
it's in the middle. You should
and
be
it
in
assumes
the middle.
and it assumes you know.
And it assumes you know.
So that's the thing about the utilitarian approach. We were talking about this yesterday, actually. The utilitarian approach is like, if you know, that's great. But I think more often than not, we overestimate how much we know.
Yes, we the scariest thing is knowing only enough to be dangerous.
Yes. All right, let's keep on trucking.
right.
We got a few more things to get into. I want to get into. So there was a. We've talked a lot about Gaza and Palestine on here, and we have a local connection. Des, if you give me this, and there was a professor at Emerson who claimed she was fired because because of a film she was writing or she put out about Palestine. So there's been a lot of this censorship and people either losing their jobs or having their jobs threatened over this, and it's come home. So it's an interesting story. The woman's name were Anna Feder. Said she was let go because of this. So it's interesting. A reminder that the same way the cuts that are happening at the federal level or supposed cuts are happening at the federal level are going to affect us here in mass. We have the same thing in some of our international politics. More purely local issue I'd love to get your take on. This is one that's affected us in my family. The New Hampshire has passed is passing this is an older article, a cell phone ban in schools. This is a big thing that our new governor, Kelly Ayotte, is a fan of, has been talking about this. I'd love to hear, as a former teacher, I have strong opinions on this, kind of in both ways, actually. What's your take on cell phone ban in school?
I don't understand why this has to be written down. I think this is kind of a common sense thing, is that you can't have your cell phone out in class. And I'm conservative on the fact of, why does your kid have a cell phone?
But this is all the way through, so this is including high school.
Yeah, and even to that point, what do you need the phone for? And then, well, I need it for XYZ. Okay, so you can use it for XYZ. Do you need a $1,000 iPhone 700?
Yeah.
No, you can get either. I have one. I don't have it with me, but I have a Google phone.
Yeah.
That has maybe a couple apps you can have, and GPS tracking, your maps, your email, things you could actually use, but you can't. It's not a computer, and it's not that huge
Right.
investment. Whereas, phones are what? couple $1,000s.
They can be. Yeah, I mean, so I think you're getting to a lot of the sort of pro ban stuff. I sort of my take. I come
It's
from a
not
couple
really a
different.
pro ban. It's that
Well,
you can have it.
the reason behind the ban.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can have it, but you don't need to give your kids the latest and greatest. You can get them the thing that, because right now bus passes are on your phone.
Right. Yeah. You're sort of stuck to having them. Yeah.
And so you get a phone that, okay, I can use my bus pass on it. Okay, I can use it for tickets. Okay, I can use it for instant messaging and stuff. But something so that you can do live streams
Right.
and stuff. And you don't like that.
Yeah, I think sort of my take. I have a couple different takes on this. So one is I think doing it at a state level is overreach, quite frankly. I think I like things to be at the level that they're set at, and I think schools should be setting these policies. Essentially, I don't see why the state needs to dictate the school policy. I understand why they would do that, so the school can go, well, it's the law, you have to enforce the law. But I never like those gutless excuses. So I don't love the state doing it. I get the reasons behind it. I think everything you're saying is true. I mean, the consumerism around the kid's cell phone is an issue, but that's a cultural issue. I think there's certainly a piece around the distraction in classrooms. Like, that is a huge thing. As someone who's a teacher, you can't compete against a cell phone if kids have their phones out. So I get that 100%. As a parent, I want to be able to get in touch with my kid.
Yeah.
Like, and like the argument against that, I hear the argument against it. I just don't give a fuck. Like, at the end of the day, like, you can make all the arguments about why it's important that my kid not have a cell phone at school, and I will agree with you on all of them. But at the end of the day, like, as a parent, especially in the days of school shootings and Alice drills and all sorts of other stuff, like, I want to be able to get in touch with my kid. And I think for me, that's the part that I find a little overreachy. So anyway, that's my take. Des is, do you have a take? Looks like you're going to say something. He is a student in a New Hampshire school, although he goes to a Catholic school, so he's not necessarily affected by this. But his Catholic school did take on this policy. So what do you think?
Well, as for this affects me, I personally think it has good effects to it, but also is a nuisance to some people because some people do need to get their phone taken away. I've, on many occasions, have seen kids on their phones at a time they should probably be paying attention.
Yeah.
Because you're failing the class. And I'm here taking notes, and then you're dicking around playing fucking Block Blast on your phone.
Okay.
So, and then on the other side of that, it's just a nuisance to me because, like you said, I need to contact you because XYZ, whatever. I need to call you. Shit, there's a school shooting. I love you, bye.
That's terrible.
Or,
I'm located in room 305.
yeah. Or, hey, can you bring me my lunch? Or, hey, I forgot this at home.
Yeah.
Can you get this for me? But then instead, if I even think about pulling my phone out, 1 hour detention, I have to stay at school for an extra hour that I don't want to.
Yeah.
Which is just a waste of my time, the teacher's time, the fucking dean's time. It's a waste of everyone's time.
So, and I think, again, the counter argument to that would be, well, you should be more prepared and not need to call your parents for things. And as a parent who's an enabler of a kid who should do more things on their own, I can also appreciate that. But
also, as for my school being a college preparatory school, I think that we should, instead of having you inflict yourself in on the situation, we should have our own, not preservation, but...
You're saying if it's college prep, you should be responsible for your own...
Yeah, responsible for myself. So if I'm failing my class, it should be my fault that I'm on my phone half the time, so then you shouldn't have to push these rules onto me.
I think there's logic in all that. So I would love to hear other people's takes on this issue. Like I said, I sort of err on the side of leaving it up to schools individually, and I don't love the state getting involved in things the state doesn't need to be involved in. But I'd love to hear your take. I have one piece of news that I think is very positive I'd like to share. Seabrook, New Hampshire is where I had my second ever job. I worked at Seabrook Walmart. That was a truly depressing fucking experience for a 16-year-old, I'll tell you that much. But here's a better thing. The Seabrook Starbucks workers voted to unionize. And this has been a move in quite a few big corporate. There's a move in a lot of these corporate locales. Starbucks being one of them. Amazon is a huge one of people trying to unionize, getting that power back to the workers, having some collective bargaining. And I think it's a great thing. Anything that gets people working together to get better outcomes for themselves. If we're going to have a society dominated by corporations, I'd rather not. But if we are, we need a meaningful way of organizing to counteract that massive force, right? I'm a big believer in balance of power. When you have imbalance of power, people get abused. And I think a lot of people working in these situations, like, there's nobody working at Starbucks earns a living wage, or as a regular employee, maybe the managers do. And that's a problem. And I think it's not just a Starbucks problem. It's a problem for most of our big corporate jobs, our big corporate employers. And people go, oh, well, that's just a job for kids, blah, blah, blah. You'll have the opposite argument. And there's a nugget of truth to that. But anyone working full time should be able to put a roof over their head and food in their belly. And I fundamentally believe that. And whether we call it rights or entitlements or privileges or whatever, it's something that we as a society should sort of have a pride about. Like, I as an American in the richest country in the history of the world, I think we should have some pride about the fact that American workers can feed themselves. And right now, most American workers are struggling to feed themselves and having to rely on these massive government programs that we're all talking about cutting at the same time. So something's got to give in one direction or the other. And I'm just very happy to see this. This is great. Congratulations to these Starbucks workers, and I hope it spreads. Let's get into some. So now we're gonna go. That's our sort of news stories for this week. We're gonna get into a couple of local things. Beth is gonna talk to us about getting involved in local elections, specifically here in Lawrence, and then we're gonna get into some things on the calendar in the upcoming week. And that'll be our first Doing Better news. So, Beth, tell us about voting in Lawrence right now. What's going on?
So, on the big elections, those have passed us.
Yep.
Those have passed us. But this year we do have local municipal elections that are going to be on the 4th of November this year, and a primary on the 16th of September 2025.
And so is that just in the city of Lawrence?
Just the city of Lawrence.
Okay.
Local elections, city council spots, Department of Education spots. These are all up for grabs. Right now, I actually found this because I was following a local politician. Open enrollment is going on right now.
Okay.
So you can go to the City of Lawrence website and you can get a, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the word.
Des, give me my screen real quick because I want to show this.
The collect signatures. I'm trying to remember the correct term.
Nomination. So we
Nomination.
got nomination papers. So this is the what I have on the screen here is
thank you.
the election calendar, and it's all ahead of us.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in getting involved, there's no better way. This is what democracy is.
It is now.
It means you getting involved. So sorry about that interrupted. But
So
go ahead.
the nomination documentation, it's 100 signatures. If you wanted to nominate yourself, you can go down, grab the paperwork, go talk to at least 100 people that you know or 100 people you don't know, and convince them with your elevator speech on this is what I want to do, this is why I want to do it, and get the signatures. And at that point, if you can get enough signatures for 100 by July 29th,
That's plenty of time. You got pretty much the whole summer between now and then to do that.
you can be selected as a candidate for the primaries. That will be announced on the 13th of August. So we don't know what's up for grabs right now. We don't know who's running right now unless they have publicly announced that they are running or they have come up to you and asked for your signature. So other than that, you don't know. They haven't determined who's going to be part of the election, so the race is still on. And the candidates will be announced on the 13th of August. And from the 13th of August to the 16th of September, there is a primary. And you can vote for the primary, and that will narrow people down into a few candidates for each position. And then the actual election will be in November. And all of that is currently on the city website.
And all available in Spanish as well.
Yes. The other thing I wanted to talk about is on both the 16th of September and the 4th of November, there's always a shortage of poll workers. And poll workers they're volunteers in the sense that this is not your regular job. You're not going to make any money from this, really. But you do get paid for a day of work. So if you come in, you get trained. So you get training experience, then you get paid for your experience, and then you work for the 2 election days, and then perhaps further elections in the future. And that is a way that if you didn't want to be part of the big machine, but you kind of want to support and keep things honest and keep things moving and making sure that your vote is counted and other people's votes are counted, that you're there, you're making sure you're taking accountability for your community.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So great opportunities at all levels to get involved, and this is the politics that you matter in. Again, when you're voting every 4 years in a federal election, there's a very good chance that your vote means nothing because of the Electoral College and all the partisanship and whatever. You go out and vote for your guy. It doesn't matter if you didn't show up that day. Nothing would be different. This is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about elections that are the votes are counted in the thousands, not in the tens of millions. Mm-hmm. So you and your little group can go and have an actual real effect on the outcomes. You can go and get yourself nominated and go get elected and go get involved in the actual outcomes. Or you can just do some research into the people that are running and make sure that your values are represented. And this is real. This is where democracy starts. This is real democracy. And as we're seeing, we cannot rely on the federal government to take care of us. Well, let's be honest. The more that we can do at the local level, the less we're reliant on everybody else. And the next best thing to taking care of yourself is taking care of your community, right? These are the ways that we make ourselves strong moving forward. We take care of ourselves and we take care of our community. And Lawrence is not a very big community, and you can get involved if you're in the area. So, and everything we're saying, by the way, that for Lawrence is true for pretty much every other city in this country. Certainly all the small to mid-size communities, you can very instantly get involved and very instantly have an effect. We've had our own friend of the show, Katrina Hobbs Everett, who's been here, and she came in as a candidate after being very politically active for years, and now we had her on as a successful candidate, as a city councilor, and we got to hear about the work she's doing. So check those episodes out if you've missed them. There, we have 2 episodes with her. Great stuff. Any other stuff that you'd like to talk about with the elections?
No, that's it.
So let's do a quick dive into some local events this week. So I found some really cool calendars I'd like to share with you guys. I'm not going to get into every single event, but there's 4 in particular that I thought had some really cool stuff. Again, this stuff that we're focusing on right now is for the Lawrence and Lawrence area, and for Southern New Hampshire a little bit as well. But wherever you're at, I'm sure this is true for your area as well. The more we get involved in these local events, this is a place to get yourself out and support people that are in your community. Every time you support a community activity, a community business, etc., you're keeping that energy, that money, all that in the community, rather than sending it out to Amazon or sending it out to some other way that it's going to end up in some Wall Street billionaire's pocket instead of someone in your neighborhood. So one of my favorite locales for supporting the arts is Altair. Right downtown in Lawrence. Des, if you'll give me my screen. This is their calendar. They always have stuff going on. So they got an open mic on Thursday. Do you know what I don't know what a Wangeki is, but they got something called Wangeki at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. That sounds interesting. They got a writing workshop on Saturday. So 3 really cool things you can get involved with locally.
I would check with their social media. Their building got sold.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah. So they are winding things down. They are doing workshops still under El Taller, but they're going to be doing them in other locations. So while you have the calendar, also link up with their social media.
I will.
Because that's where you're going to get the most up-to-date information.
Cool, and we'll make sure all that stuff's in the comments for you guys too. Also, Des, give me my screen again. Haverhill Chamber of Commerce has lots of stuff going on. They got an Eggs and Issues legislative breakfast, which I think is kind of an interesting one
That
on
one's
Wednesday.
really good.
Oh, is it?
Yes, I've gone to a few. I've met a couple state-level senators and state representatives, and they come and they do their elevator pitch on the topic that they really want to run on and they really are passionate about. They've done ones on local housing and the housing crisis. They've done ones on trying to get businesses here down on Essex Street, because one of them happens to, he is a representative for one street in Haverhill, but then all of Lawrence.
Oh, cool.
So it was a very interesting topic. So it does cost a little bit of money to pay for the breakfast and the coffee. But if you, for $30, you can go and you can talk to your local representative or politicians and talk about local concerns that you may have.
That's awesome. And if you want something a little less heavy, you got some weekly cornhole tournament, you got a weekly board game night, etc. So some cool stuff on the Haverhill Chamber of Commerce website.
Oh, and if you own a business and you join their Chamber of Commerce, they do, you just have to apply for your events and they will update the calendar with your events.
Cool. The Haverhill Gazette also has a great listing. This is kind of a cool one. Des, you want to show me this? So on their website, you can actually select the date you want, the location, and then a distance and find. And they have a ton of stuff on here, like, you know, the Fisher Cats, the local AA baseball team, the psychology of dogs at Lowell Memorial, etc. Just all kinds of stuff. So all ways to get involved. It's very easy to get stuck in our houses watching TV and on our phones all day. And your kids and your friends would much rather to go out to Lego Afternoon at Manchester City Library or Music Bingo at Bosa Skies, etc. than sit home all day on their TikTok. Even if they tell you they wouldn't. Sometimes you got to drag these kids out. I proved that yesterday, by the way. Another one on our calendar, WMUR also has a kick-ass community calendar as well for more New Hampshire people. Again, this is by date, so let's see what they got going on. We'll look at next Friday. And Furniture Master Chairman's Show, Indoor Labyrinth, what? Shadow and Light Art Exhibit. So all kinds of stuff from, again, at all levels. You can go watch the Goonies if you want to keep it light. You want to go get artsy, you can go to a gallery. All kinds of cool stuff going on there too. So there's so many opportunities to get involved in local things to support local people. I think that's all that I got for today for our local news. Do you have anything that we forgot, Beth? I forget lots of things lots of times.
I'm going to be a little selfish.
Yes.
And another calendar that you can look at is the Lawrence Heritage State Museum.
Oh, I had this one up earlier, actually.
I am actually doing a yoga series there on Sundays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So right before church, but not so early that you're still hungover. I can't believe I belched on that. That was actually
that's
perfect.
Awesome. That's art right there.
I have 2 more classes because I'm renting the community room up there for the month of April. So I have 2 more Sundays, and I'm doing free beginner level yoga. Donation based. If you want to donate, the donations are actually going to go back to that specific facility.
Wow.
No matter what, I'm gonna donate because that's a free resource.
Yeah, that's great.
So the state park has a community room on the 3rd floor that is completely free, that you can just go to the park ranger and request a time to rent out the space, and they do it for children's birthdays a lot.
Wow.
And it's a huge function hall, and also an art gallery. And currently, for this month, they are actually also using that space for the Lawrence Public Schools art program, and they did an art show. They're doing an art show that will be open, free to the public, all the way until the end of the month, and it's all the kids from the Lawrence Public School have submitted artwork. They were selected. They were put into professional staging. So this looks like a Museum of Fine Arts display from kids from kindergarten all the way through high school.
That's awesome.
I was a little nervous. I took some video. I was a little nervous because some of the ceramics were not in cases, and so when I walked around, I was a little scared. But it is lovely, and I think that's a really positive thing that we should be highlighting, that we do have a public school program that does have the arts, that does have a place to showcase the talent of the youth here so that they can be supported in that lifestyle and in those skill sets.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So that is what we got for today on our Doing Better news. A little bit of sad stuff, a little bit of interesting stuff, and a little bit of exciting stuff moving forward. We will be back next week, same time, 6 o'clock, and we'll do some more local news. Please, if you have stuff that we're sleeping on, you want to get us hip to, please send it in, doingbettershow@gmail.com, or any comments on any of our pages. Beth, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you very much.
Des, thank you for your work back there. We got a thumbs up from engineer Des. The Sunday Sanity Check will be on in about 15 minutes. That'll be with me. We'll go over the national and international stories, and I'll tell you why everyone else is stupid. That's it. I'm Oliver Rox. I'll see you guys next week.